Wow. You guys are using every single one of our chairs right now. This is wonderful. Thank you guys all so much for being here. This is a really wonderful way to bring in the holiday season. 95 years. Holy moly. What an amazing organization the Cincinnati Civic Orchestra is. And we're just proud at Springfield Township to be such a long-standing partner with them to bring this concert to you year after year after year. I am with Springfield Township, and I also run a nonprofit called Arts Connect. And Arts Connect is the organization that brings all of the township's community events and arts programming to this area. Our Arts Center is right back behind this building right here. There's a lot of faces that I've seen and that I know, but there's a lot of you that I don't. I want to make sure that you do know a little bit about our history and kind of what's going on with us right now. So last year at this time, on Christmas Day, we had an alarm drop over at our beautiful, gorgeous Arts Center, and 3 sprinkler pipes had frozen and broken and flooded the entire center. We have been down for over a year. We temporarily located with our partners over at Finneytown School District, and they let us use Brent Elementary School. And in 3 weeks' time, we were up and running with most of our classes and offering almost at full capacity. That building was scheduled to come down in June, the end of June, so we had to move out of that space. So unfortunately, just as our project got delayed, their project got delayed too. So we had moved everything out, and now they're actually not able to demo that building for until the summer of this year. So we have been running classes out of this Grove Event Center, local churches, the YMCA, wherever we can. But I am so excited to let you guys know that our grand reopening is January 5th and 6th. Yes! We are so excited. If you are not familiar with the programming that we offer, it is quite extensive. If it is an art program, we have a class for you with that. So everything, we have a beautiful wood shop, we have a gorgeous pottery studio, we have a gorgeous gallery. We do everything from stained glass to woodworking to drawing to painting to learning how to fly a drone. We're going to actually be renovating a shed back here to bring a dedicated space for blacksmithing here coming up in the upcoming year. Lots and lots of programs. If you did not get an activity guidebook, they are in the back, and please feel free to grab one of those. We are running a capital campaign now, and it is a recovery effort for us because there's a lot of supplies that we have to replace that aren't covered by insurance. So the building itself is all covered by Springfield Township and Springfield Township Insurance. But Arts Connect is a separate nonprofit organization that runs all of the events and programmings out of that space. So in your programs, we did tuck a donation, and any of the donations that we collect today are going towards our recovery fund. Any donations over $100, we're actually going to put everybody's name on a plaque, and that's what the paper is to fill out if you'd like to do more. We have a huge year coming up, so again, I look forward to seeing you guys. 2 big things on the grand opening on the 5th. We're going to be doing the ribbon cutting at 10 a.m. We're going to have a lot of make-it-take-its, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of fun. From 5 to 7 p.m. that night, we are going to have like a cocktail hour, and we are bringing in a free cooking demonstration with Big J's. So if you're not familiar, there's a small little restaurant over on Hempstead called Big J's Place. And he was just featured on the Diners, Drive-In, and Dives, Guy Fieri's big TV show. And coming up in a couple weeks, they're going to be airing an episode on America's Best Restaurants. So right here in Finneytown is one of America's top restaurants, and they're going to be doing a cooking demonstration for us at our grand opening in the evening time on Friday. The Saturday event, along with all kinds of make-it-take-its and demos, we will have Brett Harper, Charlie Harper's son, doing a talk about the life of Charlie Harper. So Springfield Township, longtime resident, nationally recognized artist. We do have some great, Morgan's got back there, some great Christmas, holiday gifts, Christmas gifts, Hanukah gifts. We're featuring Charlie Harper's merchandise, so that's all back there. All right, I'm done talking. I'm going to turn it over to Larry with the Cincinnati Civic Orchestra. Where is he at?
He's sitting down.
Oh, he's way back there. On to you, sir.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 95th season of your Cincinnati Civic Orchestra. There are about 6 or 7 chairs down front here for some of you standing, if you come down the side. This is the most wonderful crowd we've had in years. It's absolutely delightful to have you all here. 5 or 6 years ago, I asked my dear friend, Edward F. Howard, great choir director, a great musician, a great composer, most importantly, the greatest music educator that the state of Ohio has ever had. After Eddie won every award they had to give, they made a special award just for him. He spent his whole life teaching our kids. And I said, Ed, we don't have any music during the holiday concerts that celebrates Thanksgiving. And he sort of looked at me and he said, Thanksgiving music? And I said, well, you're the choir director. There are hymns we sing. And he said, oh, yes, yes. And I sort of thought he'd forgot about doing an arrangement. You know, this concert is much closer to Thanksgiving than to Hanukah or Christmas or New Year's. And it's like, why isn't there an orchestra arrangement of Thanksgiving music? And I came in one day to rehearsal, and sitting on the podium was an arrangement of the Thanksgiving medley. And really, right now, and Ed's not with us today, he's up in Chicago, but I know he's going to be watching the broadcast of this. It never occurred to me to do any research on the 3 carols, and it's somewhat amazing that one of them will be the earliest piece of music we're playing today, We Gather Together. And it's not a Thanksgiving piece of music at all. It was written in 1619 by a Dutch composer to celebrate the liberation of their country from Spanish rule. Please don't ask me why the Spanish were ruling the Dutch. I have no idea at all. All I know is they were glad to be free. And if you think about the first words of this hymn, We Gather Together, the significance is amazing because all the years they were under foreign rule, they were not allowed to come into their village squares and gather together in their churches or in their community centers, because they might have become seditious, like we Americans did with the British, I guess. So here they were, free, and the first thing they did was have a day of celebration to gather together, which is where this beautiful hymn tune comes from. We gather together to share the Lord's blessing. So it seems like a good way, with all the turmoil in the world right now, to start this concert. We give you the music of thanksgiving. I'm sure we're all very thankful to be here, even those of you standing in the back. Sometimes we have to wait for good things to happen. I've been waiting since 1990 for Around the World at Christmas Time to go back into print. Bruce Chase, one of the great arrangers for orchestra, brought this fantastic celebratory piece of music out. And I think it was in 1992, I actually got to play the music. And then we tried to buy it for the orchestra, and we actually had scheduled a concert of Around the World at Christmas Time, and we found it was out of print. And we tried again, and it was out of print. 2 rehearsals ago, the music arrived. We literally played from it. You could smell the ink off the printing presses. Shipped directly to us from the publisher. If we're going to really celebrate the holidays from around the world, Maestro Chase has given us the best way to start. He looks at music in all of his arrangements, everything we've played that he's touched, as if it's something that belongs to all of us, as if it's a gift that we've been given. And it doesn't really make any difference what holiday we're celebrating now, whether we're Christian, whether we're Reformed Church, whether we're Roman Catholic, whether we're Jewish, whether we're Muslim. We're all celebrating this beautiful season given to us by God. We're all celebrating tomorrow and the next day when the sun comes up again, and we're privileged to be here together to hear the beautiful music the world makes. And what we have here is such a diverse group of music. Of course, I would like this. I'm of German heritage, and he starts with O Tannenbaum. I remember as a little boy marching around the Christmas tree as my grandfather would light the candles. I think we had the last Christmas tree in America with candles on it. Grandma, my aunts, my mom, they'd be praying that the house wouldn't burn down. Finally, Grandpa gave in and bought a string of lights. But we also have the wonderful festive music of Hanukah in this arrangement. And what seems to me so appropriate is he ends with probably the most American of our hymns, Go Tell It on the Mountain, over the hills and everywhere. We hear that too often performed slow and sad, but it's not. It's a joyous song. It's a song that the pioneers sang as they came out here to settle. It's a song that the enslaved people sang as they hoped that they or their children or their children's children would be free. And he's arranged it, and I have to be honest, you feel like you're marching down Bourbon Street with one of the bands and just joining in to sing along. It's all of the celebration of the world of the holidays wrapped into 5 minutes of beautiful music. So we're going to start our tour of the world's great holiday music with this great arrangement. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed learning it for the first time. don't expect that to go that well, orchestra. They've been practicing again. It's dangerous. Well, let's go back to the beginning of the holidays for just a second. There's a wonderful melody, which if you look in the hymnal, it says in Dulci, Jubilo. Now, musicologists have been arguing for centuries about who wrote this. If you put the Latin words with it, it's pretty good. A lot of musicologists think the Germans came up with this beautiful melody. That works pretty good too. The earliest manuscript we have, incidentally, is from the year 1259. And it's the same music, but the words are in Swedish. I see some of you wearing these wonderful Scandinavian sweaters to stay warm. I guess if they could give us sweaters to stay warm during the holidays, they may have written one of our favorite melodies too. We don't quite know where this melody came from. We know everybody loved it, but it really didn't hit the top of the charts until the late 1800s when somebody gave it new words. God rest you, merry gentlemen. But this beautiful melody and this wonderful arrangement that captures it so much like it would have been during the Middle Ages lets us know how far back our heritage of celebrating together goes. We give you a Dulci Jubilo. one of my great privileges as a conductor over the years has been to prepare and offer the amazing Second Symphony of César Franck to audiences. Franck is probably the greatest of all the French conductors, of all the French organists, of all the French composers, and he sort of didn't fit in his time. He was too far ahead when he was young and frankly too far behind when he was very old. And nobody quite knew what to do with his music, especially his great concert works. And in a few years we'll be playing his symphonic works again. But during his lifetime he was mainly known as the organist at the great cathedral in Paris. And he wrote literally hundreds of hymns. But his favorite was writing hymns for the holidays. And we have a very lovely little setting here of three of his hymns, two of the very slow ones, and often he was very slow and emotional. And then, in the end, one of his fast, joyous children's hymns. This music is very different than what we are used to in America. If we lived in Quebec, we'd hear French holiday music all the time, but we don't get to hear what the French celebrate as often as we maybe should, because it's lovely, lovely music. We give you French Christmas music, all by César Franck. always liked holiday music that captures the spirit of children. And I think this setting of Gesu Bambino, Baby Jesus, arranged by Jan is just, it just gives you the feeling of a great creator looking down on us and giving us gifts. The children here, the grandchildren that you all love to have and go visit so much. Across the world and across the centuries, there's never been a culture that didn't love and appreciate little children. And somehow, this little piece of music captures that moment when it all happens. And I see some moms out there saying, well, that little moment when it all happens isn't quite as easy for you guys. Yeah, we just make it all happen. But this sense of celebrating life, of celebrating the greatest gift of all, I think we catch it in this lovely little carol. So we give you Gesu Bambino. along both halves of the concert, we're going to have a little fun. How many of you, like me, when you were little, remember Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop? For those of you that don't remember Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop was her little lamb that usually kept her in line, and she was one of the great ventriloquists of all times. Lamb Chop could sing, which is a pretty neat stuff. And she took the Carol of the Bells, a wonderful traditional Ukrainian carol. And with the help of Volkovsky, and we do an arrangement that Dick Hyman did, turned it into one of the joys of Christmas, one of the joys of the holidays. This is sort of what we had for us old folks before the Charlie Brown Christmas. And it was delightful. And the music is still as great as it was all those years ago. But we're also going to do another arrangement of Carol of the Bells before we end the second half, a rather newer one. Now, for those of you that are fans of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, no, there's going to be no fireworks. It's bad enough that the sprinklers went off here. We do not want to burn the building down. But we have permission, and we are playing their version, Sarajevo, on the second half. Same melody, somewhat different. But the interesting thing is, and I want to introduce both of them right now. Most of us will remember the Olympics at Sarajevo. Olympics that they said could never happen. Olympics held where there were all different sorts of competing religions that hadn't gotten along together for years, and we were going to invite the young athletes of the world to come together there. Orthodox Christians, Roman Catholics, Baptists, Muslims, Jews, all living there, and they all got together to do one of the most wonderful Olympics that have ever happened. And less than 2 years later, they were slaughtering one another. And I remember watching on the news some of the musicians coming out in what was left of these beautiful Olympic venues of this beautiful city, and sitting there playing music in the rubble for the people that had survived. And that inspired the Trans-Siberian Orchestra to do their version of Carol of the Bells, the traditional Ukrainian carol. But I want you to listen first to this wonderful setting that Sherry Lewis did all those years ago. And although on the second half of the concert, yes, it's going to be a little different. Yes, it's rock. The electric bass is going to be going crazy over there. But it's still the same music. It's still the same bells ringing in the holiday. Now, if the orchestra plays this well, it's my understanding that next year we may be permitted to play one of the other great pieces of music that has been adapted by the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, what they call the Mad Russian. And yes, if we do that, we'll do it with Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite because it's their version, their rock version of it. And I think doing those together would be just unbelievable. Or I can survive it at least. So first, for all of you Lamb Chop fans, we give you Carol of the Bells the way we do it. And before we end the concert, put your seatbelts on and we'll give it to you the way we're doing it today. stressful? Well, it's been 15 years. I don't think this blockbuster movie needs any introduction anymore, but I will say one thing. This will now be the 7th time we've played this during the holidays, and if this plays as well as it did orchestra at the dress rehearsal, you folks are in for a treat. We give you the Polar Express. Well, now it's time for the music that I grew up with. When I was a little boy, I grew up in northern Kentucky for a while. My grandfather was a very, very good German. I was 6 when he brought some warm beer up out of the basement, and my grandmother and my aunts and my mother, he's too young. The French children drink their wine when they're only 5. I've never gotten a taste for warm German dark beer. I think if he started me a little later, maybe, I don't know. Now we're going to play some German carols. Now there's something about German holiday music that, with the exception of Silent Night, we don't hear it in America. And it's quite frankly very different than the holiday music of the rest of the world. Now, of course, we're going to end up with O Tannenbaum. How the Germans can turn a waltz into a march for little children to tromp around the Christmas tree, I've never known. But they did it. And all of these carols are just so wonderfully upbeat. And then right in the middle, we have Silent Night. One of the great gifts to the holiday season. How many of you have driven up 75 and straight off in Michigan to a little town called Frankenmuth? Yes. Frankenmuth has a store that the Bronner family runs, which is the largest Christmas store in the world. It makes Walmart's look teeny. You can get everything from a life-size Rudolph the Reindeer to a singing menorah. You can probably get every gnome that the Scandinavians ever saw, and you can get singing icicles to hang on your gutters. They have it all. But sort of on the edge of this huge facility, they have built an exact replica of the chapel that Franz Gruber premiered Silent Night in. This little teeny chapel, no orchestra, just a guitar accompanying a beautiful voice singing Silent Night. And the Germans have it one way or the other. It's either all excitement or it's just totally beautiful, quiet, wonderful music. And what I like most about this arrangement is that we have some of their wonderful children's carols in it. We have what's called the echo carol, where the orchestra plays loud and then there's an echo, and loud and an echo, and loud and an echo. And we have O Come Little Children, which has literally a cuckoo clock in the middle of it. And it's just so delightful to think about a country that until the advent of our modern times, until World War I, was 50 little kingdoms, all of which just sort of did their own thing, and all of which had their own set of carols, and all of which had their own traditions, but all of which came together during the holidays to celebrate. No matter who was fighting who, when the holidays came, they stopped. And they sang together, and they prayed together, and they hoped for a better world together. And then a little bit after New Year's, they went back to being Germans and fighting with one another, which is what Germans tend to do. Now, fortunately, most of our holiday traditions have come from our German immigrants. They invented cutting down perfectly good pine trees and bringing them in the house. If you'd grown up in the house that I did, with perpetually made sauerkraut on the stove that never went dry, you needed the smell of the pine trees, because in the winter you couldn't open the windows. We see people that know what I'm talking about. They also invented some other things. Once they had the tree, they had to have something around it, so they said, well, our Jewish brethren have presents for all the nights of Hanukah. Why don't we start doing presents? But how are we going to make this work? Well, they found an obscure German baron that went out and trudged in the snow and gave poor people gifts, and we ended up with Santa Claus. And they had to put something around the tree, so their watchmakers made little trains that went around the tree, and we ended up with all different sorts of toys that we now cherish. But the most important thing they gave us has to be Silent Night. And I think it's wonderful that in this gorgeous arrangement, it's placed right in the middle of all of this over-the-top holiday music to remind us that these holidays center on a gift that we've been given. No matter what our faith, a gift that we've been given. We give you German Carol Festival. Well, before we march off for the big ending, I thought it would be nice to play one of the most beautiful pieces of music that's probably ever been written, that frankly no one gets to hear. There are certain groups of instruments that composers do not normally ask to play together. You all know about string quartets, 2 violins, a viola, and a cello, or duets. Well, this is a concerto called the Pastorale by a gentleman named Corelli. His parents named him after the angels. His name is Archangelo Corelli. And he wrote music that the angels, I think, would have been proud to sing along with. But he wrote this wonderful piece of music for 2 violins and a cello. I don't know whether there wasn't a viola available, or whether he forgot, or what happened, but it's not exactly the way we're used to playing. And instead of using the whole orchestra, the accompaniment is only the strings of the orchestra. I've been privileged to play this many times over my life. This is the first time that I'll be playing it with Cicely. I played it with Janet in the past. Played it with Ephraim many times, sometimes with him playing the first part and me the second, and vice versa. My lovely wife and I have played it together many times. It's music that makes you feel that all is right in the world. And we know right now that all is not right in the world, that there are many, many horrible things happening. But I think when we hear music this beautiful, we know that in all of our hearts of hearts, we can find a way to come back together again. At least that's what I hope and pray for this holiday season. Now, going from this to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is going to be a bit of a jolt for all of us. And before I tried to do the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I decided maybe I needed something to bring my blood pressure down to a level where we wouldn't take off and never catch up with ourselves. So we're going to do this lovely piece of music for you. I have to say that over the centuries, there have been quite a few pieces of music written called pastorales. If you're a fan of Georg Friedrich Handel's Messiah, you know that he wrote a pastorale. And the main reason because of that is that in Holy Scripture, no matter whose Scripture you're looking at, when a Holy One is born, the Scriptures never tell us much about it. They just say, and a Savior was born, and a prophet was born, and a leader came unto us. But they never give us a description of those beautiful moments when it happens. And composers over the ages have tried with music to find that moment when the beauty of life and the beauty of God looking down upon his people comes together. And I think as much as I love the Pastorale and the Messiah and some of the other beautiful music written, I think that this one by Archangelo Corelli is the most beautiful. We give you his Pastorale. How many of you know the significance of the title of this work, Christmas Eve, Sarajevo, and then the date, 12/24? December 24th, right up the road from us in Dayton, Ohio, was where the peace accord was signed that stopped the war. Very quietly, a group of diplomats from around the world sat down and brought reason to the people who just a few short years before had hosted the Olympics for the world's community and got along splendidly. And one of the things that came up during those negotiations was this one very brave cellist who went out every day in the rubble of what was left of the stadiums and of the village or city, whatever Sarajevo really was before it was pounded into dust, and played beautiful music. He wasn't willing to let the horrors of war or to let the fact that his good friends and neighbors who had so worked together to bring the world together for a beautiful Olympics, he was not going to allow whatever had gone wrong to stop the beautiful music. And the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is at best a glorified and a very glorious rock band, was inspired by that. To take the Carol of the Bells music, the same music that they, as young people, had heard with Sherry Lewis, and make this unbelievable contemporary arrangement. And I believe in this we hear all of the beauty and yet all of the power, and yet we hear a bit of the evil that is probably in every one of us that we have to always fight against to do what is right. So before we end with our traditional playing of the festive sounds of Hanukah and Leroy Anderson's Christmas Festival, this is a piece of music to think about what each of us can do to make a better world, to celebrate these holidays more fully this year. Each of us in the way we pray to our God to ask for peace in the world, and to ask that the beauty of our creation that we celebrate each day when the sun comes up, that tells us good night with the sunset each day, that it should fall into the hearts of everyone in the world so we can be one again. If you want to do something between now and whatever holiday you're celebrating, go on the internet and pull down a little bit of the footage of the Olympics at Sarajevo and watch all those beautiful people, all those beautiful athletes together, celebrating together. And remember, we can get back there if each one of us tries. We give you Christmas Eve, Sarajevo. Now for almost 40 years, we have ended with Leroy Anderson's wonderful Christmas festival. About 8 years ago, we got the original version, exactly as it was performed that first time by the Boston Pops Orchestra under Arthur Fiedler. And for most of those years, we've added it in front of it, Holcomb's amazing Festive Sounds of Hanukah. They're both cut from the same cloth, so to speak. The most sacred of music, wrapped around some of the most festive, happy of the holiday music. They both have moments where just a few orchestra musicians are playing almost as soloists, and moments where everybody else is lifting the roof off. And played together, I think they talk more about the holidays than any other music we could give you. One of the amazing things about the music of the holidays, and you'll hear it right now, is that no matter who is composing the music, no matter what traditional or popular music they're rolling together to make the music we enjoy so much, those composers are forever changed when they write this music. Leroy Anderson took this in to Arthur Fiedler and said, "Maestro, I have the greatest arrangement I've ever done for you." Why was he writing a new arrangement of Christmas music? Because they had just remodeled their great hall, and there was going to be a surprise for the audience. They didn't know it, but the great organ had been restored, and right at the end, although we don't have an organ here, we certainly have a timpani to roll it off. Wham! The organ just opened up, and the people of Boston cried because they had their organ back. The first time the Festive Sounds of Hanukah was played, the members of the orchestra were so moved that they couldn't stand to take a bow. And they sight-read it in that performance. Yes, it came right off, hot off the presses. You don't always get a chance to look at the music first. These two pieces of music have been our gift to our audiences since I picked up the baton and stopped playing my violin here. And I hope that this tradition will continue for your kids and your grandkids. I saw one lady come in that's going to be making another audience member shortly, hope not during the performance, for the kids that we don't have yet. It doesn't get better than ending a holiday concert with these two great pieces of music. I would be remiss if I didn't say just a couple of thank yous. First, to everybody here at Springfield Township, everybody from Arts Wave. It is amazing all of the things that happen here. When we first played here, this building was just starting to be taken care of, and now look at it. It's beautiful. It's a gift to the community from the community. Arts Connect, I hear from people all over about this or that or the other thing they learned to do that they didn't know how to do until they came. It's part of what giving is, and this community gives back to its residents. I want to thank the people videoing us and all the folks watching out in TV land. It's really great to be able to reach you. I'm glad some of you stayed home because we ran out of chairs. But most important, I want to thank all of you that are here tonight. I've told this story before, and it's a true story. About the 10th or 11th concert I conducted with this orchestra, there had been a long monsoon season in Cincinnati. I think we had 38 days of rain in a row. And that morning when I drove out to the College of Mount St. Joseph to conduct the concert, the sun had come out, and I realized as I was driving all the way out there that somebody was in the front yard of every house taking care of their lawns, their bushes, their flowers. And it occurred to me there might not be anybody show up for the concert. Now, when you're on the podium, you don't see the audience. You only see your musicians. You only work with them to give the gift of music to the audience. But the most horrible thing would be for all these wonderful musicians behind me to spend all this time rehearsing and practicing and making this beautiful music and not to have a full house to appreciate it. Well, we're doing 2 more concerts. They're listed in your programs. Tell your friends to come to a concert. I can think of no greater gift that you can give this wonderful orchestra than helping to make sure that those 2 concerts are a full house also. Because this wonderful group of musicians deserves that kind of support. And I want to personally thank all of them because you folks have never played better. From the bottom of my heart. The last thing I always say, this is an open orchestra. As long as we have a folder of music and a stand that's not being used, if you play an instrument and want to start playing again, you are a member. We have never held an audition in 95 seasons. In fact, our charter says we can't hold auditions. And also in 95 seasons, we have never charged for a concert. Every concert has been free to the public. And our charter also requires that of us. We are here as your fellow citizens to give you beautiful music. And I'll tell you, there's got to be somebody out there that just really wants to play trombone again. Maybe somebody has a viola sitting under their bed. We've had people come back after 20 years of not playing, and believe me, enough of us have come back, myself included, after years of not playing, that no one will be critical, everyone will be supportive. And as you can also see, we have a couple high school students with us. That's also encouraging because grandmas, moms out there, it's pretty scary the first time you come in. I was 17 the first time I played in the orchestra. I was terrified, all these old people, and there I was in the middle of them. Now I'm one of the old people. This is truly one of the last great all-volunteer orchestras, not only in the country, but in the world. We are the oldest now left in the United States. There were 2 founded before us, and they've gone out of business. That's what happens when you don't teach kids music in the schools. You run out of players in the future. But I'm glad you're all here. I want you to look at those dates in the program. Our winter concert, we're doing the 5th Symphony of Felix Mendelssohn, his great Reformation Symphony, that he never had a chance to hear. And then in the spring, we're going to do the Tchaikovsky 5th Symphony, a major undertaking and a gorgeous work of music. And this summer, make sure you're on the mailing list because we're playing all music of the silver screen, all your favorite film scores. So please, please, keep coming and support these fine musicians.